I first got into yoga and health and wellness in my early 20s, and I started moonlighting, meaning I would do it after my day job. I would go in the evenings and I would go to lectures, and then I'd teach a lecture. I'd go to a lecture and then I'd teach a workshop. And it was a really great way for me to dip my toe in the water and slowly start to figure out if I could make money, how I could piece together a career. It helped that I was young. It helped that I could live on the cheap for quite a few years as I found my feet. I know many of you listening are yoga teachers, Pilates instructors, personal trainers, health coaches, or you're aspiring to do this and you're not sure how to make the career side, the business side work. Well, you're not alone. It's not easy. Entrepreneurship is a rocky road, no matter how many times you've been down this path, and trying to figure it out is a formidable challenge, and you'll probably need some help. On this week's podcast, we'll be talking to John Berardi, who's someone who's done this at a very high level, went from being a personal trainer to owning and operating very, very large coaching business, went from working with 20 to 30 clients at a time to working with tens of thousands at a time. And I think you can learn a lot from this episode. I know if you're not in the business or not aspiring to be, this might be one to give a miss, but I know many of you are interested, or you're 1 degree of separation from somebody who this will be immediately applicable for. If you're new here, this is the Lucas Rockwood Show. I'm a yoga teacher, a trainer, I'm a nutritional coach, I'm a serial entrepreneur myself, and I every week I go out into the world of health and wellness, personal growth and development, and I find somebody doing something extraordinary. A writer, a researcher, in this case an entrepreneur, and I try to bring their best thinking, their best work to you to hopefully help you and me and all of us live a more fulfilling, more healthful life. As always, your questions, comments, and feedback are most welcome. Send me a voicemail, yogabody.com/asklucas. If you like the show, the best way to support me is just to share the show on social. It really means a lot. Share the show and tag me. It's at Lucas Rockwood. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. So hello and welcome everyone. Today's show is called Turn Your Health Passion into a Business, and I'm here with John Berardi. John is an entrepreneur. He's known as the co-founder of Precision Nutrition, which you've no doubt come across at some point online. It's the world's largest nutrition coaching, education, and software company. He's also the founder of a newer project, Change Maker Academy. And they help change makers, especially health-conscious, health and fitness people like you and me, create a powerful purpose and create a successful business. He's got a new book by the same name. He's advised major corporations, professional sports teams, and he was named one of the 20 smartest coaches in the world and the 100 most influential people in health and fitness. John lives in Ontario with his wife, and he's got 4 kids. You can check out his book website and his training site at Change Maker Academy, and the book, of course, is on Amazon as well. And we'll link up in the show notes to all of this stuff. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Lucas. I really, really appreciate it. I've been excited for our chat and hope we provide a lot of value for everyone listening in.
So we've got a number of people listening who are yoga teachers, Pilates teachers, holistic health coaches, personal trainers, all of the above, and probably even a larger audience of would-be trainers, coaches, etc. Meaning they would really do it if they could replace their income. And they've got – it's not that their fear is unjustified, right? They've got very real overhead. You've got 4 kids, I've got 3 kids. That's real stress. You can't just – it's different when you're 17 years old and you want to take a punt for a summer. And so one of the things that I think people really get stuck on is, let's say they're really into cycling, group cycling, or they're really into yoga, or they're really into CrossFit, or whatever it is, and they're going to their local box or their gym or their studio or whatever it is, and they can see their trainers living a life to some degree that they'd like to have, and they work out the math. And here's how the math goes. They work out the hourly math, and the hourly rate is usually decent, right? It seems manageable. Mm-hmm. But then they start to do the math and they're like, okay, I can't work in the gym for 14 hours a day like I do in the office. I definitely can't teach 5 yoga classes a day. Definitely can't teach 4 spinning classes a day. And so the math is kind of where people get stuck, and they get sort of stuck in part-time land for a really long time. I don't know what percentage of the personal training industry is part-time on the side, but in the yoga industry, it's probably 80+% of people are doing another gig plus yoga, and they'd love to make yoga their livelihood, but they just don't really see a way to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's such a challenge. And, one of the things that I like to do is I like to begin even a step before you began. And everyone listening in, the idea is, a lot of us are rushing into sort of well-worn pathways. We're like, hey, I like health and fitness. Maybe it's I like yoga and a yoga practice made a difference in my life. or I like nutrition, and, eating healthy is something that is really important to me. And so it begins with this very personal experience of whatever the practice or the art or the skills are. And then it becomes rushing straight into, well, I'm going to coach that thing as the ultimate sort of next step. And for me, I like to start one step before that and say, there is a wide range of options for working in health and fitness that doesn't involve coaching. Coaching's a difficult spot. As you said, you outlined some of the financial realities. There's a whole bunch of others. So for those who love coaching and they know that's their purpose and their unique ability fits like right in that space, that's their pocket, and their values are in alignment, that's wonderful. I don't want to dissuade anyone from doing it. But, I had this experience recently where at Precision Nutrition, I was hiring out some of my operational roles because I had been taking a step back and sort of more higher level sort of oversight of the company and not daily operational oversight. And we were looking for a product owner, which is basically someone who oversees our software projects, right? So they've got sort of a design mind, they've got a technology mind, and they're interested in health and fitness. And as we're looking for this person, we're doing this search, I'm finding these really, really talented people who are just as passionate as we are about health and fitness, but they also like these other things, design and technology. So they found a way to sort of fuse all their passions together. So some of the things that live outside this space, bring it in. And these folks are making like 500 to 700 grand a year doing this. And so there's all these pockets out there. And I think this is beautiful because where you can really bring together, all the parts of yourself, not just the part that likes health and fitness. As you're talking about, you're trying to replace your income from your quote unquote day job to come do this passion. Well, my question is there a way to bring your day job with you too, so that you yourself can be fully embodied and expressing all your talents and all your unique abilities? And that exists. Another example is a woman who I met at an event recently was telling me how for years she had tried to get a job at Precision Nutrition, and we never hired her. And she had gone through all the pathways. So she had done our certification, she had done our mentorships and our internships, and was just never hired. And I was like, well, tell me about your backstory. And it turns out she was a special project manager at Microsoft for Bill Gates. She's at the highest level of her career. Then she had a child, her son, and then she realized, wow, the work ethic is huge. The time commitment's huge in my current job. I want to be a more present parent. And also, I want to lose some weight. She hadn't been taking care of her health. So she signed up for a coaching program, had a really great outcome, then decided, okay, I'm going to leave Microsoft. I'm going to try and go be a coach at Precision Nutrition. This is going to be my new thing. And after hearing her story, and she was frustrated, here's someone who's kind of a master of the universe. Who's like, I can't even get a job coaching with you. What's wrong with you people? And at the very end of our conversation, after we had connected and had a calm moment, I just told her probably the exact opposite of what she had wanted to hear. But I said, you know what? I'm so proud of our team for not hiring you. And she was like, what? And I said, your unique abilities aren't in line with this particular kind of work, and it all ended up great because she actually had gotten a job working as a project manager for a health and fitness company that she was really passionate about. So her purpose and her values were now in alignment with her unique abilities. So, before I start giving people like tactical strategies for getting their first 10 or 20 clients, I have to begin with this conversation. Maybe you shouldn't have clients at all. Maybe there's a way to take this great stuff, that you do outside of health and fitness and bring it in and create a path that's really uniquely yours. And so that's where I always love to begin.
It's a great point, John. I always tell people the same thing too. People need to think a little bit less linear in terms of their career definition. I think people think, I want to be a writer. I want to be a personal trainer. I want to be a yoga teacher. And very few people have jobs that really, like you're a fitness trainer, but
Yes.
does that really define what you do? I'm a yoga teacher, but you probably look at what I do in a day, and it probably seems more like I'm a guy who writes emails, And so people have to be a little more creative. And also the thing that is challenging about it is people have especially with one-on-one work or with group work, you have a very real ceiling. So for me, early days, I was teaching 21 classes a week or something, and I knew immediately, I was like, I got to get out of this. My house is on fire. This is not going to work for me. And my magic number is like 3. Like I teach 3 classes a week, and I'm on fire. Well, it'd be great if I could work 3 hours a week and support my family and all that, but I can't. And so I started doing other things, and I went exactly what you did. And so I was like, well, what did I want to be growing up? Well, I wanted to be a writer. Okay, so I invested a ton of time in learning. I'm an excellent writer. So let me write about yoga. Let me teach yoga through writing. And very quickly it turned into other things. I also know marketing, and I started these studios and these kinds of things. But you have to piece it together, because if I taught 21 classes a week, I lose my mind. I don't even like yoga anymore. And same with business coaching. I got into coaching studio owners because I have successful studios, and really quickly I realized that I don't want to work with almost anybody, because most of them in my industry just have a real head trash around money, that I'm just not a great mindset coach. I'm just execution, and so I don't even tell people that I coach. In fact, my partner, the other day, she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I have a coaching call." She's like, "I didn't know you had coaching clients." I don't tell anybody, because I want like 4 a year. I just want like 4 a year, and I just want to handpick them, and I want to say it's not available, because the ones I work with are awesome. But I get where I'm going with this is that that product or project manager from Microsoft, her thought is, I want to bail on everything and just be a coach. The answer is like, that sounds good today, but that's probably, the evidence in your life probably says that's not exactly what you want to be doing. You want to be involved in health and fitness and this kind of thing. So I think it's really, really sage advice. I wanted to ask you about something specific that is unique about you, and it's kind of the dirty secret of the health and fitness industry. It doesn't matter whether it's personal trainers or yoga teachers, is that people get out of shape, and you're in shape, and I've seen you on stage, and you've managed to stay in shape yourself, and you could probably get away with not being in shape with at the fact that you're at kind of a high level, but it's really a problem in the industry. Yoga teachers, studio owners, personal trainers, you can see it in any gym, you can see it in any yoga studio. They really stop taking care of themselves, and it's a really challenging thing when your body's your business. And so how do you help people think about this without getting like body dysmorphia and eating disorders and these kinds of things?
Yeah, totally. Well, for me, it again kind of begins at the first place, right? Just like when we talked about career, we have to begin with your purpose, unique abilities, and your values. And your values is where this sits for me, So I have, in Changemaker, we have a host of exercises that we take people through to identify their purpose, their unique abilities, and their values. And here's the hint. You're not going to do it on your own. You actually need the people around you, your colleagues, your friends, your family, to help you really uncover these things, because often our unique abilities are the things we totally take for granted. We wouldn't even list them. And they're the things we would do for free. And it's the people around us who help us identify these things. So for me, I have my value statement, my unique ability statement, and my purpose statement sitting in my office, so I can look at it every single day. And on my value set, I have 3 things. I don't think you can have more than 3, or else you're just kidding yourself. And mine are, quality relationships and time with my family. The second one is self-care, and that's where fitness and health and time in nature and good eating fit in. And then the third is, any professional project I might be working on at the time that I'm putting all my energy into. And so I look at that every day, and those are the 3 things I have to do. Everything else is a no. And there are tons of things that come up that I have to say no to because it doesn't fit into that pocket. So, people who know me know I come from the sports background. I coached at, the highest level of sport for years. And I have this friend who's a really fascinating guy who is a classics professor. So he comes from strength and conditioning. He went and got a PhD in classics. So basically what he does now is he translates ancient Greek texts on physical culture. So training and recovery and food and like all the things that we would read about now, as part of our career and part of our passion. But, ancient texts on these things that have been never translated before. So I bring him up because he runs this event in Olympia every year in Greece. And so it brings together the leading thinkers about sort of Olympics and sports and performance and all this stuff. And he's always asking me to come to this thing. And for people who know me, this is, I would love to come to this thing. This is the exact kind of thing I would love to say yes to. But every year I have to tell them no, because I have to ask myself these questions. Is this going to, enhance my time with my family, my relationship with them? And the answer is no. We have young children. I'm not bringing them to Greece for this thing, maybe not till they get older. So I'm going to be away from them. Okay, so that's a strike against this idea. Second, is it going to enhance my health care, my self-care? Probably not. I'm going to be on a plane for lots of hours, and I won't have control of my nutrition, so probably not. And will it help with my most important professional project? No. So I can't go to Olympia. You know what I mean? I can't go to this event. So that's how I really balance. I just choose very few things that are going to be the yeses in my life. Everything else is a polite, respectful, full of gratitude. No, thank you, but I appreciate you thinking of me. I wish I could do this. And that's where you open up space to take care of yourself, to focus on your priorities at work, and to have the kind of relationship you want with the people that you've identified as on the top of your values list.
So you've really made a career around educating professionals, teaching professionals. You have a PhD. I've made my career around educating yoga teachers primarily. And at the same time, I really see a lot of people in my industry fall into the education trap, where they're just, literally they come to apply for an entry-level job and they've got thousands of hours of training on their resumes, on their CVs. And they're always asking me, should I do another training? Should I do another training? And I've got a bunch of trainings to sell them. And I would just say, you should start teaching. I started teaching professionally before I had any education at all. And it certainly would have been better if I was educated, but I don't know, I'm just curious about your perspective, because you've taken the education thing as far as, anyone could in this industry, and you're an educator. And of course people need tools, or, we wouldn't know where to go, but how do people balance? Because fitness professionals get into this too, where they just have 100 different certifications. They've got more certifications than clients, basically. We could put it that way.
Yeah, totally.
How do you strike that balance between like education and then just excuses not to go to work?
Well, I think education's a sort of a lifelong thing, and it adjusts as time goes on. Probably earlier in your career, you have like what we might call formal training, whether that's university or your first certification or whatever. After that, you do a phase of life, which what many people call continuing education. And then it even evolves beyond that. I have different ways of doing my own continuing education that doesn't involve going to courses anymore. Because of where I'm at in my life. But yeah, to your point, I think people pursue their own continuing education almost like throwing darts at a dartboard. It's like there isn't a master plan. And again, this is what I help people do in the book. We outline what I call, and others have called, a T-shaped learning curriculum. So if you imagine a T, so you have that horizontal line across the top and the vertical line down the center. And so what you want to fill your horizontal line with, and again, you can do this at the beginning of your career, at any stage, really. You want to write out all the skills you'll need. You don't need to be a master of, you don't need a PhD in, but you'll need to be successful future you. Okay. So you think about what your purpose and unique abilities and your values are and what you hope to be one day. And then along that top part of the T, you write down all the skills you'll need. So in my case, as you said, I have a PhD. So that would be the vertical line of the T. That's where you're going to go deep. That's, if you are going to go deep into movement or nutrition or yoga or science or whatever the case may be. So that's your, sort of vertical. But then along the horizontal, you realize you need other skills, right? Anyone who's tried to, let's say, grow a business as a yoga teacher knows, like, oh gosh, my yoga training is just the tip of the iceberg. I need to know so much more. I don't know how to market or sell or coaching skills. There's a whole bunch of things that I'm missing. So what we do is we have people fill out this T for future them. In my case, what my team might have looked like as it developed over the years was, my PhD is sort of a deep knowledge of nutrition and supplement science. And then across the horizon is developing speaking skills and communication skills and business skills and marketing skills and change psychology skills. So when we help people build out this T, then they can post that right next to the things I talked about earlier, their values, their purpose, their unique abilities, so that when that course pops up in their Facebook feed or their Instagram feed, and it just looks so amazing, oh my gosh, another yoga training in Costa Rica, they can say, all right, I'm going to look at my T though before I decide and figure out what the next skill I need is. Is it to go deeper in my already deep subject level expertise? Or do I need a totally different thing that feels a little uncomfortable? Like, am I really, as a health and fitness coach, going to go get a marketing course this weekend? It's not going to feel great, but it's what you need, and it's what you've mapped out in a moment of clarity that future you need. So you're going to start making this investment in a very strategic way. So, and then of course, one of those things along your T, the horizontal bar of the T, for example, might be just experience. Another one might be a certain kind of wisdom, and these are the things that then you have to say, okay, cool. So instead of going away this weekend, maybe I'll offer some free classes, to get experience. And so it's important, like you said, to not underestimate the value of just repetition and practice.
It's easy for people to just get siloed too. So they get into nutrition and they only study nutrition, or they get into kettlebell training, that's all they do. But it's like I said, a lot of people really just need to learn how to do some public speaking, and that'll just catapult things. Or they need to learn how to write a marketing email, or they need to learn how to set up a basic WordPress site or whatever it is. And I guess what happens is people feel like it's off topic, and they feel that the thing that I often hear from people is, I'm going to hire somebody to do that for me. And I'm just curious to get your feedback. I've been in business now for 13 years, and I've had over 150 employees between all my crazy projects and stuff like that. I've never been able to manage anything I didn't understand myself, at least at a 101 level. Like, I can't code, but, if I pull open a PHP file, I can make a little bit of sense of it. And I can't, I could tell you 100 different examples, but that might just speak to my inferiority as an entrepreneur. But I'm just curious, this concept, I hear it a lot. I talk to studio owners, like, I'm going to hire a marketing manager and a PR director. I was like, there's not enough money for half of that role in this company. You know what I mean? And I think people misunderstand how small business works, and this kind of wearing many hats necessity, at least in the early days. What are your thoughts in terms of, because I'm sure you run into that with fitness pros too, where they assume they're going to just outsource their Instagram account and it's going to blow up, or they assume they can just hire somebody to run their Facebook ads and suddenly the clients will come rushing in.
Yeah, that's right. It's very tempting to think like, oh, I'm just going to live in that pocket of my interests and my own talents, and then I'll just ignore my weaknesses, or whatever the case may be. And there's actually a world where you can do that. It's as an employee of a company that hires people based on unique abilities and builds out a team like that. That's why I often say that the world where you can focus only on your strengths and ignore your weaknesses is when you're part of a team, where the person next to you has phenomenal skills in the areas that you're weak, and you can just not even think about those areas at all. But that's a pipe dream for most people, especially in this field if you're going to work and live as an entrepreneur. Now, again, I'm not selling entrepreneurship as the ideal. Again, I think we need to do purpose, values, unique abilities, and figure out if that's for you. If it is for you, though, you do need to bolster these areas. And I always like to start with philosophy and then go into practical examples. So here, I think, is where you start with philosophy. You have to get your head right. You have to say, you know what? Let's say it's as a personal trainer. Working with clients and mastering your craft is super important, but you have the rest of your career to do it, right? So figuring out how to run Facebook ads as an example, or write some email copy, or one of these other skills you don't feel like is that first thing, isn't a detour. It isn't a distraction. when you plot the course of a 30 or 40 or 50 or 60-year career, even 1 year spent on learning what you feel is a tangential skill will seem like nothing. You know what I mean? Like when you look broadly at this big perspective of a career, you're not being distracted. You're just building a well-rounded skill set that's required for career success. So I'm with you. I think if you don't know anything about, marketing and advertising, and you think you're going to just hire a firm, it's probably not going to work for two reasons. One is it's expensive, and that's an investment that has to pay off. And that leads to number two, which is that firm isn't going to know more about your space than you do. They're going to know less, right? So you hire someone, you're like, can you run Facebook ads for me? Well, that person runs Facebook ads maybe for you now, let's say you're a yoga business, and they run someone for, I don't know, a software as a service business outside of the space, and maybe they run ads for a fast food joint in your hometown, right? So they're catering to all these clients. There's no overlap, right? So they don't have any deep knowledge. They don't know who your customers are, what they want, what moves them to sign up or spend money. And so it's impossible for them to get the messaging right. I've never seen it, and I've worked with some of the best firms in the world. It requires like an interface with your business, a deep interface. You kind of have to understand what they're doing, and you have to be super present to help govern the messaging. So again, it's very difficult to manage what you don't know something about yourself. And on the other side, it's very difficult to add value when you don't live in that business for the person that you hire.
I wanted to ask you one last question about over-promising versus under-promising for service providers. And so, a classic example of like over-promising is, I'll get you beach ready in 6 weeks or something, six-pack abs in 6 weeks. And then in my industry, in yoga industry, we have a bigger problem with under-promising when, they say this is a practice for life. It's a lifelong journey, and that just sounds horrible, And so, it's a very rare individual who gets excited about a lifelong practice, And striking that balance in the yoga industry, also people get into some pretty dicey territory in terms of promising. How do you help people think about this responsibly in your programs?
Yeah, well, first of all, I like to help people understand what they're doing. What does business actually mean, or a product or a service or marketing or all of it? And I think you can boil this down to three things. One is knowing what people want, like really want and are willing to pay for. So that's step one. It's easier said than done because most of us have no clue. And in the yoga space, in the fitness space, we're pretty terrible at that. The second thing is, once you know what they want, and again, you're not going to know on your own. You have to talk to a lot of people in a specific way to ascertain what they want and are willing to pay for. But once you actually know it, and we can loop back around to that if you want, you have to build something awesome to deliver it, something remarkable, something that people are willing to talk about, something that people are like, oh my gosh, you're going to solve that for me? Yeah, I want it, And then the third thing is you have to tell everyone about it. And this is just what business is. You have to know what people are willing to spend money on. You have to build something awesome to deliver it. And then you have to make sure everyone who wants that thing in the entire town and the entire, if you have a local bricks and mortar, or in the entire world, if you have a global internet-based or online business, knows about it. And so when we talk about narrowing down to the offer itself, your offer isn't going to do very well unless it solves the problem that people most want solved. So one, it's, what they really want to pay money for. And it's an amazing thing. So, when we talk about over-promising, under-promising, over-promising is silly because, it's interesting. I mean, what I feel like is happening is people are just copying. Right? So they see someone offering like a 6-week flat belly course and they're like, oh, I'm going to offer that. Yeah. Right. And in yoga, they see people offering a lifelong practice and they're like, yeah, I'm going to copy that. And the question just occurs to me whenever I hear these things is, does every group of potential yoga clients want the same thing? So you go anywhere in the world and you open up your yoga studio, everyone wants the same thing. So we have to all copy the same messaging. That's silly, right? You have to know what the people in your geography want. Is it a lifelong practice? If so, offer that and make it remarkable. If it's not, figure out what they want. And if you can deliver that through yoga, you promise that thing. So again, this is why this isn't about going, hey, follow this playbook. This is about, hey, let's figure out who you are and make a special playbook that, and this is what I have sort of, how in books you have the dust jacket on them. So that's like that cover that kind of flops off. Well, on my book, I put a special quote kind of engraved in the cover underneath the dust jacket. And it says, when I die or retire, how will I know that I followed my purpose? And that's just engraved in the book. And that's just such a call to everyone listening. Instead of copying others, instead of trying to follow the well-worn pathways, you will die or retire one day, both. When you get there, wouldn't it be great to be proud of what you've done? And wouldn't it be great to know that what you were doing was you? Not what you're supposed to be doing, because there's probably a bunch of things you could supposed to be doing, but it was still authentically you, and that's where I think the magic is in this field. And when we can end our careers with a tremendous amount of pride.
John, I really love your message and your information. For people listening who would like to pick up your book and would like to check out your academy, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
So I'd love for people to come check us out at changemakeracademy.com. So that's where they can find out more about the book. We also are putting on some events next year in 2020 and some courses on how to unpack some of these things like purpose, unique abilities, values, career, and stuff like that. So yeah, if folks like what I was talking about today and it really seems to resonate on some level, I'd love for you to come check out a little bit more.
Right now, we have about 10,000 yoga trapeze students for every one teacher. What that ratio means is there's a huge opportunity for teachers right now. We started training professional teachers back in 2016, about 2.5 years ago. And since then, this course has really been a force of nature. We've had courses, of course, in Barcelona, our home base, in Manila, in Amsterdam, in Georgia, and in California, in Olympia, Washington, and in Virginia, and even in Hong Kong. We've been having this course all around the world, and I'm very excited to announce that we now have an online opportunity as well. It's not in lieu of the in-person course, it's in conjunction with the in-person course, but you can do one or you can do both courses together. It's a very popular course. We are now going into our round 4, our class number 4. We're accepting applications. To learn more, go to yogatrapezeonline.com. I'd encourage you to check out some of the stories from past graduates. You can see the full curriculum there and see if it's right for you. This week's nutritional tip is in response to a listener question. Listener JC asks, Lucas, what do you think about the idea of crowding out bad foods with good foods? I'm on a weight loss mission in the new year. So this is a really common approach to weight loss, and the idea is rather than reducing or restricting foods that are potentially anti-weight loss or foods that are, let's just say, not that great for you, the idea is that you crowd them out. And so if you eat enough spinach, maybe you'll stop eating cookies. If you eat enough, nuts and seeds, maybe you'll stop with the ice cream. I've never really seen this work. I love the idea. I've just never really seen it work. I think where it works much better is in lifestyle things. So for example, if you're a person who doesn't go to the gym and then suddenly you start spending 2 hours a day at the gym, that just inevitably affects your life. I mean, you're taking a huge chunk of your day and dedicating it to something else. At mealtime, if you just add to your plate, I haven't really seen it where those negative foods drop off. And a big part of the reason is because those negative foods are very often addicting. They have really low satiety ratings, and what that means is they don't really make you feel full. So it's very easy, no matter how much you've eaten, to eat more ice cream. It's very easy and even compelling to eat more cookies, these kinds of things. And so I love the idea that rather than focusing on -1, you just focus on +1, adding. But I haven't found it to be really effective. So JC, my suggestion would be the advice that we often give is a +1, -1. one. And so let's use the cookies and spinach example. Let's say that your idea is, hey, every day I want to make sure to eat at least 300 grams of green vegetables, which is kind of a good suggestion for everyone, by the way. Let's say you wanted to plus 300 grams of fresh green vegetables. Maybe it's arugula, maybe it's broccoli, maybe it's spinach, maybe it's chard, whatever it is. But in order to do that plus one, I'd encourage you to do a minus one. So maybe the minus one is you don't have any cookies in the evening or something like that. But the plus one, minus one, where you're doing swaps, I've found to be a lot more effective. And the other cool thing is you can do one at a time. So you can plus one and minus one. So maybe you've got some other vices that you leave in there and you don't have to get rid of everything at the same time. One of the key things to remember with eating and food and nutrition is that you don't have to get everything perfect. I've never met anyone who does everything perfectly. You just have to get it mostly right, like 80% right, and you'll be just fine. So if you have some vice, some secret love, some red wine that you can't give up, or some chocolate cake, it's totally possible that you can find a way to make that work. But you do need to put it in the context of the bigger picture. What does your day and your week and your year look like? And that plus one, minus one can help you move in the right direction. Hope that's helpful.
Hello, I'm seeking some advice. How can we help someone, especially if this person's really close to you, to overcome stress and anxiety, and person thinks that they don't really need help? While anxiety is difficult to deal with, and it's even harder to help someone with anxiety to overcome it. So yeah, there you go. That's my question. How can we help someone suffering from anxiety?
I appreciate you calling in with the question. First disclaimer is I'm not a mental care professional and I suffer from anxiety all the time. So first disclaimer. The second thing is everything I know I can share from my personal experience and then just what I've learned from people on the show here who are credentialed and smarter than me. The definitions have been really helpful for me. So separating depression from anxiety, the working definition that most people use is that depression is worry about the past, ruminating over the past, probably a better description. So for example, of lost love, of a lost relative, of the loss of your youth, it very often revolves around bad decisions or things that have slipped away from you. In terms of anxiety, that's usually worry about the future, worried about layoffs at work, worried about the pending economic crisis, worried about the political party, whatever it is. And the other thing that's been really helpful for me to think about that I've learned from guests on the show, mostly therapists, is this idea that there are very real depressing moments of life and there are very real anxious moments of life, and to react any other way would be completely inappropriate. An example, you lose your mother. That is going to be a depressing time. It might last for weeks or months or maybe even years. Now, if it lasts for 10 years, that's become a dysfunctional behavior pattern. On the flip side, in the anxious side of things, if you are worried about layoffs at work and 10 people just got laid off last week, again, that's a very real anxiety. And some of us live lifestyles, or we live in places that are just anxiety-ridden. There are war-torn areas all around the world. I'm sure some of you are listening from places where there are constantly wars and borders are under dispute and things are really, there's a lot of political unrest. Even, the country of my birth in the US, it's a very stable place, but there's a lot of political unrest. There's a lot of school shootings and there's very real reasons to be anxious. Now, at the same time, if you're in a place like that, it might be time to make a shift. And I think this is really important to realize. For some people, city life is just anxiety-ridden. For other people, country life is anxiety-ridden. For some people, working in an office is the most anxious thing in the world. For other people, sitting home and reading books creates anxiety. I think identifying your anxiety triggers is really important to try to remove the things that are truly dysfunctional. For me, when I analyze my anxiety moments, high anxiety moments, it's usually worried about things that I have no control over, and that is dysfunctional, right? For me to worry about things I cannot make a change about, well, that's not going to do anybody any good. And just defining that and calling that out has certainly been helpful for me, but hey, it's an ongoing study. I appreciate the call and hope those things are helpful. In terms of mind-body practices that you can do, it's probably actually the answer you were looking for, calling into a yoga guy on the internet, but mind-body practices that can be helpful. We teach something we call whiskey breath. If you'd like to learn it, go to yogabody.com/how to breathe. There's just a real quick PDF there. Whiskey breath is a 4 to 8 count breathing practice. It down-regulates your sympathetic, which simultaneously stimulates your parasympathetic response. Helps put you to sleep, cool your nerves, stimulates your vagus nerve if you do it with that ha sound, that whisper sound as you breathe. So that's a great one to do. I also really like frequency following music. I've been getting back into this. We had a guy on the show recently, and I got back into it. You can find these free tracks on Spotify. Things like theta music tends to be the one I've been falling asleep to recently. Obviously, I don't want to make light of the fact that it sounds like your partner or your significant other in life is having real anxiety problems. Doing a little breathing and putting on some iTunes tracks might not be the solution, but it might be something that could help. I appreciate you calling in. Good luck, and let me know how it goes.
This week's iTunes review is by Dadroy K. Dadroy K says, "First, Lucas has a very relaxing voice. I find the questions he asks very helpful as he is genuinely learning from his guests as well. I've heard him use the new facts from one guest in later podcasts. Excellent to have him on your journey for health." Thank you, Dadroy K. You have won the Yoga Trapeze. Please email us at podcast@yogabuddy.com and we will be shipping it to you.
If you're a regular yoga talk show listener, you'll definitely want to get on my email list. Go to yogabuddy.com/sign me up. When you enter your email address there, we always have free giveaways every month, yoga straps, water bottles, discounts in our shop, and all kinds of other things. When you sign up at yogabuddy.com/sign me up, I'll send you just one email a week with updates about the show, special offers, new courses, and valuable information that I think you'll find useful. So go to yogabuddy.com/sign me up to claim your free prize now.